shared between them the waters of the earth are sprung. All the weather of the world is based upon the contest of the polar and equatorial strains of the tyrannous race. The west wind is the greatest king. The east rules between the tropics. They have shared each ocean between them. Each has his genius of supreme rule. The king of the west never intrudes upon the recognized dominion of his kingly brother. He is a barbarian of a northern type, violent without craftiness and furious without malice. One may imagine him seated masterfully with a double-edged sword on his knees upon the painted and gilt clouds of the sunset, bowing his shock head of golden locks, a flaming beard over his breast, imposing, colossal, mighty-limbed, with a thundering voice, distended cheeks, and fierce blue eyes, urging the speed of his gales. The other, the East King, the king of blood-red sunrises, I represent to myself as a spare southerner with clear-cut features, black-browed and dark-eyed, grey-robed, upright in sunshine, resting a smooth-shaven cheek in the palm of his hand, impenetrable, secret, full of wiles, fine-drawn, keen, meditating aggressions. The west wind keeps faith with his brother, the king of the easterly weather. What we have divided, he seems to say in his gruff voice, this ruler without guile, who hurls as if in sport enormous masses of cloud across the sky, and flings the great waves of the Atlantic clear across from the shores of the New World upon the hoary headlands of old Europe, which harbours more kings and rulers upon its seamed and furrowed body than all the oceans of the world together. What we have divided, and if no rest and peace in this world have fallen to my share, leave me alone. Let me play at quoits with cyclonic gales, flinging the disks of spinning cloud and whirling air from one end of my dismal kingdom to the other, over the Grand Banks or along the edges of pack ice, this one with true aim right into the bight of the Bay of Biscay, that other upon the fjords of Norway, across the North Sea, where the fishermen of many nations look watchfully into my angry eye. This is the time of kingly sport. And the royal master of high latitude sighs mightily, with the sinking sun upon his breast and the double-edged sword upon his knees, as if wearied by the innumerable centuries of a strenuous rule and saddened by the unchangeable aspect of the ocean under his feet, by the endless vista of future ages where the work of sowing the wind and reaping the whirlwind shall go on and on till his realm of living waters becomes a frozen and motionless ocean. But the other, crafty and unmoved, nursing his shaven chin between the thumb and forefinger of his slim and treacherous hand, thinks deep within his heart full of guile, aha! Our brother of the West has fallen into the mood of kingly melancholy. He is tired of playing with circular gales, and blowing great guns, and unrolling thick streamers of fog in wanton sport at the cost of his own poor miserable subjects. Their fate is most pitiful. Let us make a foray upon the dominions of that noisy barbarian, a great raid from Finisterre to Hatteras, catching his fishermen unawares, baffling the fleets that trust to his power, and shooting sly arrows into the livers of men who court his good graces. He is, indeed, a worthless fellow. And forthwith, while the west wind meditates upon the vanity of his irresistible might, the thing is done, and the easterly weather sets in upon the North Atlantic. The prevailing weather of the North Atlantic is typical of the way in which the west wind rules his realm on which the sun never sets. North Atlantic is the heart of a great empire. It is the part of the west wind's dominions most thickly populated with generations of fine ships and hardy men. Heroic deeds and adventurous exploits have been performed there, within the very stronghold of his sway. The best sailors in the world have been born and bred under the shadow of his sceptre, learning to manage their ships with skill and audacity before the steps of his stormy throne. Reckless adventurers, toiling fishermen, admirals as wise and brave as the world has ever known, have waited upon the signs of his westerly sky. Fleets of victorious ships have hung upon his breath. He has tossed in his hand squadrons of war-scarred three-deckers, and shredded out in mere sport the bunting of flags hallowed in the traditions of honour and glory. He is a good friend and a dangerous enemy, without mercy to unseaworthy ships and faint-hearted seamen. In his kingly way he has taken but little account of lives sacrificed to his impulsive policy. He is a king with a double-edged sword bared in his right hand. The east wind, an interloper in the dominions of westerly weather, is an impassive-faced tyrant with a sharp poignard held behind his back for a treacherous stab. In his forays into the North Atlantic, the east wind behaves like a subtle and cruel adventurer without a notion of honour or fair play. Veiling his clear-cut, lean face in a thin layer of a hard, high cloud, I have seen him like a wizened robber-sheik of the sea, holding up large caravans of ships to the number of 300 or more at the very gates of the English Channel. And the worst of it was that there was no ransom that we could pay to satisfy his avidity. For whatever evil is wrought by the raiding east wind, it is done only to spite his kingly brother of the west. We gazed helplessly at the systematic, cold, grey-eyed obstinacy of the easterly weather, while short rations became the order of the day, and the pinch of hunger under the breastbone grew familiar to every sailor in that held-up fleet. Every day added to our numbers. In knots and groups and straggling parties we flung to and fro before the closed gate. And meantime the outward-bound ships passed, running through our humiliated ranks under all the canvas they could show. It is my idea that the easterly wind helps the ships away from home in the wicked hope that they shall all come to an untimely end and be heard of no more. For 6 weeks did the robber sheik hold the trade route of the earth, while our liege lord, the west wind, slept profoundly like a tired Titan, or else remained lost in a mood of idle sadness known only to frank natures. All was still to the westward. We looked in vain toward his stronghold. The king slumbered on so deeply that he let his foraging brother steal the very mantle of gold-lined purple clouds from his bowed shoulders. What had become of the dazzling hoard of royal jewels exhibited at every close of day? Gone, disappeared, extinguished, carried off without leaving a single gold band or the flash of a single sunbeam in the evening sky. Day after day, through a cold streak of heavens as bare and poor as the inside of a rifled safe, a rayless and despoiled sun would slink shamefacedly, without pomp or show, to hide in haste under the waters. And still the king slept on, or mourn the vanity of his might,